It's Armoured Clash week, and we have 3 amazing starter sets to be won. We'll pick 3 winners, one from the YouTube comments, one from the OnTableTop.com comments, and one from the Cultic Games members, so you guys get an extra chance to win.
Hello everyone, today I'm going to be checking out another massive box from Warcradle Studios Armoured Clash. This time round it's the Crown Battlegroup Starter Set. Alright then, the Crown Faction Battlegroup Starter Set for Armoured Clash contains everything you need to start your Crown forces. The Behemoth, Sovereign / Monarch landship is in there. There is enough to run either skirmish or battle-sized games, in that you have double each unit in here, and when your list building units are bought as whole things, so they are, for skirmish games you would have 4 of these dragoons. In a battle-sized game you could have up to 8 in a unit, which would be a reinforced platoon, and then if you're playing a cataclysmic game you could have up to 12. Likewise, for your tanks, 2 for skirmish, 4 for battle, 6 if you're playing a cataclysm game. You can field smaller units in larger games, but you can't field larger units in smaller games. There is a set of the modular industrial scenery, so you've got a bit of terrain for your tabletop, some blocking stuff. There's also all of the paraphernalia required to play, your tokens, your full rules, the Command and Conquest deck, dice, templates, measuring sticks, and objectives. So let's have a look inside. Okay, getting the lid off then. Way stuffed to the roof, we have our Crown map, a flyer for Armoured Clash and Dystopian Wars. We have a big bag of resin, which is our landship. 24 dice. The Command and Conquest deck. The A5 rules. 2 token sheets for status effects. And then our plastics. So, measuring stuff, all of your bases, 4 sprues of Crown armour, 2, 3, 4, 4 sprues for Crown infantry, and I imagine at the bottom we have our terrain. So let's get the camera in and take a closer look. Okay, so there are 4 of each actual miniature sprue. However, they're best thought of in pairs. So a pair of the Armoured Regiment sprue will let you make full units. So essentially you get all of the models on a sprue will make half of what is required to field a unit in the game. So every 2 sprues is a unit, every 4 is a reinforced unit, every 6 is your maximum unit size for cataclysmic games. As you can see, the armoured sprue contains not just the main medium battle tank, but also a set of cavalry, some artillery, which are a couple of variants in there. And then we also have around here the dragoons for the Black Watch, along with pilots and crewmen. All of the parts on the sprue are numbered, which should make assembly much easier. And there are, as always, some options in here beyond the artillery types and the tank types. For example, if you're building a larger set of your cavalry, you won't always need the officer and standard bearer. So depending on what you're building, you may have options for some of the bodies as well. checking out the infantry then. So the infantry regiment sprue allows you to make multiple units. There is a infantry support armoured fighting vehicle. It can either be a Sterling APC, or it can be a support gun for the rifleman. Up here you have the likes of the rifleman. There's also some of the Spitfire Rocketeers for aerial manoeuvring. A couple of artillery pieces. Again, small gun battery. Not like the big honking ones on the armour sprue. And we also have our sharp rifle support unit and sapper support unit. And the sappers are actually all Scottish with bonnets on them, which is nice. Everything's numbered. No assembly instructions in the box. You'll have to go via the QR code or go to armouredclash.com. For the main, they are one-piece miniatures for your infantry. Cavalry and Rocketeers might be a couple of parts. So really you're only having to worry about the larger vehicles and artillery pieces. Base-wise, you get these little 20mm squares, one of which has got a hole for the flag to designate your officer, which is an important gameplay aspect. You also have some plugs, so with the likes of the cavalry or small artillery pieces that go on these, you'll fill in a couple and then leave the others free for crew or the cavalry mounts. The completely solid ones are used for the dragoons, your walkers, essentially. Light infantry type. So the final miniature isn't really a miniature. It is in fact a magnificent piece of resin. Main body, optional tops, and some optional sides. Turrets and guns will often come off the plastic sprue. As I said, there are no assembly instructions in the box. You'll have to look online for them. But I'm going to do that right now and come back with some built. Okay, so everything's built. I say everything. I've built half of the plastics to give you an idea of what it will look like, but we're going to start with the Monarch, or the Sovereign. That's a really easy way to double your damage, is just to pop that on. So depending on which one you want, if you want to magnetize it, I would think about that. You will need 4 turrets that come from the Armoured Regiment sprue, 2 for each side, but otherwise the build is the same. The balconies go on, the guns to the front, smokestacks to the rear, and then your choice of topper. It's an absolute beast of a piece of resin. Overall, really good quality cast as well. I can't see anything in the way of mold lines or mold slippage where the two halves haven't quite aligned and there's no bubbles visible anywhere. Just have to take off the sprue gates from underneath, just make sure they're level, but people won't be seeing those when it's on there. It's a really quick build. A lot of nice intricate detail from the front prow rams, which is very indicative of the Crown in Dystopian Wars with their naval fleet. Big boarding ramp at the front as well that they can just drop down and hammer in there. If I pop the resin out of the way, take a look at some of the plastics. And starting with the core of your force, the infantry. The Crown infantry contain 6 models, so 6 stands. A stand is a model as far as game is concerned. All of your units have to have an officer designated so you can find your leader. They generally best marked with an officer model and or a standard stuck to them. And they sit in the centre. Measurements to and from them are how lines of sight and the like are sort of allocated. There's a set of 4 Spitfire Rocketeers. So some quick-moving aerial troops, good flankers, good for claiming objectives and generally harassing your opponent. Nice set of figures as well. They actually have a specific smokestack and wing set, but on the sprues, themselves, apart from being numbered, all of the models are keyed. So you'll find like single dimple line, and then on the back of the model and back of the backpack, those counter pieces are on it. So it'll be a little nipple and then a bar to slot into, or it might be 3 mortise and tenon holes, or 4, whatever. So if you do clip off too many and not sure where they come from, it is still fairly easy to pair them back up again, which is great. There's some elite support units, so sappers, which are actually Scots in bonnets. Again, you always need to mark your officer off. Apart from shooting, some of them are carrying ammo or stuff to the front, and a few of them are even entrenching. So they've got spades out and are shoveling like there's no tomorrow, which is a nice touch. There are some sharp rifles, scoped, wearing slouch hats, a nod towards the Crown's vast empire, Pax Britannium and all that. They're a nice set of figures. So again, these are all the base unit size, so whether it's 6 for the rifle or 4 for these sort of support units, but they could be doubled up if you're playing a battle. Then we have our artillery pieces. So these are the field guns, the Drake field guns. Again, easy build, wheels onto gun, crew behind, and off you pop. Or hopefully off your opponent pops. FVs, so these can make the Sterling or the Glamis gun. So an SPG to follow along or support your troops. Again, good detail, fairly easy build. Just the central section is constructed out of a top piece and then front and rear, and then your tracks go onto it. And then the Sterling troop transport is just the same, but with what appears to be a canvas cover, saving on materials. And it means it's multi-purpose. If they take it into a theatre where it's very hot, they can always pull that back. For the armoured section, or the armoured regiment, you can make units of 2 tanks. So either the Galahad tank with the main gun, side sponsons, and again, we have a little flag to designate our officer, or it can be built as an assault vehicle. So this is your Tristan transporter, a bit more rugged, front line, maybe get your elites right in there with this. I won't spoil what it does in the game, but you'll be encouraged to take them, I'll put it like that. The Mordred heavy artillery piece, or can be built as the Boers bombard. So 2 honking pieces of siege weaponry, depending on what you need. Again, because the way it goes, you could build 2 and 2, or if you wanted one massive battery of bombards, you can just have 4 of them. Then we have the cavalry. The cavalry come in a unit of 5, actually, so these are horse guards. Obviously, it is a steampunk era, so they are on mechanical steeds, which is nice. Just imagine the steeds as shiny as a horse guard on parade at Buckingham Palace. Really make it glow. Blind your opponent as they're trying to sight you. So they are all wielding heavy cavalry sabres. And then there's a further light cavalry section, shall we say, even though in this case they are walkers. These are the Black Watch Dragoons. 2 versions in game. You have this one with the close combat weapon and lighter gun, which is your assault section of, again, 4. Or they can be built to be a slightly longer ranged dragoon. So move up, take position, start shooting. They carry a little generator that shrouds them, so they always have cover as they move around the battlefield. And these are sort of mechanical walkers. Final bits of plastic then. 4 sprues, again, 2 of each. This contains a double width and double height wall and a massive 2x2 roof tile, along with all of the relevant buttressing, corbelling, curbstones and crenellations, and there's even a set of add-ons for the top, including gantry cranes, turrets, chimney stacks, that sort of thing. No instructions for these. There are some suggested builds, but it is fully modular. So these panels, of which there are 5 roof tiles, and then the rest on the sprue are wall sections. They can be expanded length and height-wise, and all of these modular buttressing pieces will allow you to go in whatever direction you want, or also to finish off things like the base of the buildings. So a nice set of terrain. You can make one large building or make several smaller ones, depending on what you need. If this is your first set for Armoured Clash, I would suggest several small buildings. So you've got some blocking terrain to hide behind or to use as objectives. We've built one up as a 1-story low squat building. With a serious amount of turret defense on top. The big ramp to go in the front door. The rest of it is just chimneys. There's a really nice level of detail on these. Very industrial looking. I'd be curious how they would look if painted up in a sort of a red brick, sort of standard Victoriana style, mixed in with the greys. So that's fairly simple to build, as is this. A 2 up, 1 down. Again, simple build, nice construction. I put a couple of cranes on top, one to lift from ground and one to lift from the second, or I suppose in this case, 4th floor roof. So they can transport what they need to up to the top. And with this kit, you can probably make 3 buildings of this size, so it's relatively small, a part of an industrial area, but it gives you a slightly different play area to mess around in or to use them for objectives, that sort of thing. Here we have the measuring sticks. So it's a 20-inch hinged ruler, a turning template for larger ships, 4 50mm objective tokens that are numbered on one side and blank on the other. And we have a little turn tracker in here as well, which is a good way of seeing not just who has the turn, but whoever has the turn tracker generally has the initiative. They can be expanded up to 30 inches. You will need a second set of these templates. And they're also hinged to allow you to make a 90-degree angle to use for working out line of sight, arcs of fire, that sort of thing. So that's all of the plastic. Taking a look then at the paper components for your gameplay, there are 2 sheets of game markers, status effects on one side, and damage tokens on the other, which is enough in there to cover 12 units. So activation markers, for example. If you're playing with more than that, you may need some more or mark them off in another fashion. The full A5 Armoured Clash rulebook is also in the box. This is 155 pages of backstory and lore around the 8 factions and the world in the dystopian age that Armoured Clash takes part in. In the main, they're written in-game, in-world, so you're not reading a dry bit of text about a faction. Instead, you're reading what the faction thinks of themselves, or sometimes what other people think of the faction involved. So reports written by the Imperium about the Crown, or spy notes from somebody from the Alliance, maybe having a look at what the Union are up to. So it's quite nice. The first half of the book, though, contains your rules. So we have the beginning, how to play, getting started, core concepts behind the game itself, and then, as you would expect, sequence by sequence movement, shooting, how to take discipline checks for morale, that sort of thing, all laid out in order, and finishing with a set of scenarios that are both narrative and competitive based. So different types of clashes, as they call them in this, allowing you to work out how you're going to be playing your game. Speaking of the command cards, there's the set of 60. You will need a set for yourself and a set for your opponent, or rather they'll need their own. They serve multiple functions in game. They are your initiative cards. So from your hand, you will pick a card and highest will go first. As you can see, they all have a number in the upper corner from 1 to 12. Sometimes you may want to go after your opponent or not play a card at all. On top of that, they can be used to score victory points through the conquest half of the card. So destroying units or taking objectives will get you a small amount of victory points that you can constantly score. And you can score these multiple times. So if you happen to have several cards that all say, play this card when you suppress an enemy unit and score 1 VP, then you can play 2 or 3 of those if you happen to have them, scoring multiple victory points early game. However, that will leave you in difficulties later because you will no longer have the ability to get the command functions from your cards. These allow you to exploit loopholes in the rules, shall we say. So a rule may say you can't fire if you have a reload token, or you remove a reload token with an action, and you may not have any actions left, but you can play the card to remove it in advance and then be ready for the next turn, fully fighting fit. So that's how you play cards from your hand for initiative or for their card effects. The other way is as discipline tests. When a unit suffers a discipline test, whether through suppressing fire or losing a close quarters combat, you then draw the top card and compare the value to your modified morale, and you're looking for low. So in this case, a 4 would probably save me. Otherwise, they can be running off. Once you burn through your 60 card deck, it recycles, but is only used for discipline. So no longer can you draw cards into your hand, which means you can't play them for victory points, you can't play them for their in-game effects, and you can't play them for initiative either. So you can get a lot of victory points early on, but then if your opponent starts milling the deck, you'll find yourself at a substantial detriment in the late game. Dice-wise, 24 of these. They are specific to the game and work similar to other dystopian age games if you've played the likes of Dystopian Wars. Similar but not the same. So you can see there are 5 different face types. You've got a blank, you've got a miss, a glancing hit, a success, and a heroic strike. So strike, heroic strike. Heroic strike lets you roll a new die and add it to your existing roll, which would then garnish me another strike. And they're also worth multiple when you come to count up. So that would be worth 1, 2, 3, 4 successes. Depending on modifiers in game, you may be allowed to roll your glancing hits or re-roll your misses as well. And some of the command cards will let you re-roll blanks. So that's how the custom dice work for gameplay. So there we have it, folks. The Crown Battlegroup. Obviously, the standout miniature in the box is the huge honking chunk of resin that is the land ship, the Monarch/Sovereign. And if you plan on playing the Crown, then this is a spectacular way of doing it. A ton of models in there that will let you play not just skirmish, but also the medium-sized battle games. You'll need to add some more if you want to play the huge weekend-long extravaganzas that are the Cataclysmic games. But otherwise, everything else you need is in there. So if you've got the Crown nailed on as being your faction of choice, it's an excellent way to get started into it, along with all the gubbins and widgets that you need, your cards and your dice as well. So if you really have a hankering to get involved with the Crown in Armoured Clash, then this is an excellent way of going about it.
It's Armoured Clash week, and we have 3 amazing starter sets to be won. We'll pick 3 winners, 1 from the YouTube comments, 1 from the OnTableTop.com comments, and 1 from the Cultic Games members, so you guys get an extra chance to win.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now, and while you're at it, why not hit subscribe, and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it, go on.